Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday YouTube channel. I am your host, Ryan Hartley. This channel is for heart-centered leaders just like you. I hope our time spent together helps you leave a heartprint where those around you are left better than yesterday. These interview sessions are sponsored by our great friends at Elevate Online Marketing. On episode 180, I'm joined by James McCrae. James is an author, poet, creativity teacher and meme artist based in Austin, Texas. He is the author of 2 books, Shit Your Ego Says and How to Laugh in Ironic Amusement During Your Existential Crisis. He is a creative strategist who has led workshops and brainstorms with the top global brands including Microsoft, NBC and Target. On his popular Instagram page, Words Are Vibrations, James shares daily memes, poems, and illustrations that delight and inspire his audience. He's also the host of Words Are Vibrations podcast that explores the intersection of creativity, consciousness, and culture. It's an incredible conversation, one I hope that you enjoy. Here we go, episode 180 with James McCrae. James, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, my friend?
Ryan, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
I've been fortunate enough to interview a few people from Austin, Texas, and I absolutely laughed out loud when I saw on your grid you took the Austin starter pack, the breathwork certification, the hat, the podcast. But let's not talk about crypto, shall we?
That's funny. There's definitely a lot of action happening in Austin right now around a lot of different fields, and crypto is definitely one of them. There's a big conference going on this week in Austin called Consensus with tons of crypto people here to see it.
Love that. You are described as a post-apocalyptic psychedelic meme poet. Break that down for us. I love the sound of it. Break it down for us.
Yeah, I just like the sound of it. Someone posted that on a comment in my Instagram feed, and I just decided to, for a while, change my bio to that. I think the thought behind it is, with my memes and my writing, I'm trying to push things past, just trying to push the envelope a little bit in how I use language to explain things. And I just thought using a bio like that, where it says post-apocalyptic psychedelic meme poet, it's almost doing for my own bio what I'm trying to do with my writing. It's just kind of push it a little bit into the absurd and into the hilarious, just in a way that has a different energy to it. So that was the reason I used that for a little while.
I agree with you, and I coach people around kind of leadership and how they can, we call it heart work, the work that we do in the service of others. And one of the things I always say to my people is describe what you do using the transformation that you create, because that is always going to be more interesting. If someone says, what do you do? If you say I'm a coach, great, end the conversation. I kind of get what that is, right? But if you say that, you leave a heartprint where people are better, right? People go, oh, what's that about? So it's almost like an invitation to continue a conversation. And I love what you're doing with Recreation Studio. You talk about awakening the inner artist and this core belief that we are all creative beings at our core. Was that true for you? Is it something you had to awaken in yourself, or is it always been alive and kicking for you?
So, interesting question. I think that we're all creative as children, and I've been lucky to work my whole life essentially in creative fields. So when I was deep in the corporate underbelly, I was working in advertising agencies as a graphic designer and a brand strategist. So creativity has always been part of my work, even when I was a corporate professional. But at the same time, my creativity definitely suffered during that time, only because it wasn't an expression that was coming like organically from me. I was like trying to solve problems for businesses that I didn't even necessarily agree with the business or the
Yeah.
ethos of the company, right? And I still have to kind of like muster up the creativity and passion to help support these clients. So it was really great practice in terms of just finding a way to be creative, finding a way to help a business position themselves and market themselves and um, get a larger audience. Um, but it wasn't a fulfilling type of creativity. So yeah, I think that I had to reawaken that within myself,
Mm.
and I was lucky because I wasn't too far away, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, the way the economy is set up and the way that this social structure is set up,
Mm.
it tends to like reward a certain kind of conformity that is focused on, you know, propping up an economy that's built on um you know, inequality
Yeah.
and on hustle culture
Yeah. Yeah.
and on pushing yourself and on, you know, it doesn't reward connection to soul and creativity and heart,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So I think that all like every individual in the course of growing up, we go on a we lose track of our path because we're
Yeah.
forced to make compromises based on the world that we live in.
Mm.
So but I firmly believe that, you know, our nature is our nature, and you can cover up your nature, but
Yeah.
you can't change it or lose it, right?
Yeah.
So I believe it's always there for anyone. And when I say creativity, I don't even mean like, oh, I'm a painter or a
Yeah.
writer or an artist. It could be, you know, creative in the sense of how you build your business or how
Yeah.
you express yourself, or, you know,
Mm.
how you raise your family. There are a
Yeah.
lot of different it's to me it's more just being an autonomous, independent thinker
Yeah.
who is in touch with things like imagination and intuition,
Mm.
as opposed to being led by like more like the fear-based ego mind. So I definitely think that it's something we all have, and we've just kind of been distracted
Yeah.
from it as individuals and as a society.
Hey, my friends, thank you for being with us so far. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I just wanted to take a quick moment to let you know about our signature Heartprint coaching. Our Heartprint coaching is for you if you're ready to go all in on becoming a heart-centered leader, ready to go all in on doing more of what you love, ready to see what you are capable of with support, guidance, and accountability. You're ready to go on a rapid, transformational journey that will change your life and others in as little as 3 months. Are you ready to show up with courage and share your gift with the world? Ready to start making an income and more impact by doing what you love? Ready to start leaving your legacy where those around you are left better than yesterday? In our Heartprint signature coaching, in our time together, I'll help you lead from your heart set. I'll help you develop other people and your team. I'll help you bring your heart work to the world. I'll help you start leaving a legacy and capturing examples of your impact. I will help you be someone you love, to do more of what you love, and to serve people that you love. It's an amazing opportunity for someone who's ready to go all in and be a heart-centered leader. I'll throw in loads of other bonuses, including your life languages profile, access to our Master Heart and Mind membership, and even some Always Better Than Yesterday merchandise. Head to abty.co.uk/coaching to find out more, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon. That's abty.co.uk/coaching. Here we go. Back to the interview. Yeah, I love that. And there's something that kind of blew my mind when I started to reframe what it meant to be creative. Because if I judge myself as the creative artist, I am rubbish with my hands. I can't do DIY. Like art is it's just not an enjoyable thing for me. But when I start seeing that the spaces and the places that I create, the community I create as an expression of my love and curiosity and my creativity, that is when I can truly comfortably adopt that identity of being a creative, because it's no longer attached to what maybe I would have thought it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, what I like to say is it's not about being good at creativity.
Yeah.
It's about creativity being good for you,
Mm.
right? Because I think one thing we did with creativity is we did the same thing we did with capitalism, meaning if you're not in that 1%,
Yeah.
you're not ever,
It's
no
not
one's
for
ever
you.
going to see your work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're either in the privileged class of published authors or like famous artists, and like you have a reputation and you can build a living around that, or else you might write in your notebook,
Yeah.
but no one ever sees it. And there's a big chasm between the 1% of successful artists and everyone else. And I really think we need to solve that problem of inequality of creativity, because it doesn't matter. Like, yes, some people are better than others. Like, it's not about talent. I think that I think creativity can be a healing modality unto itself.
Mm.
You know, I think we all, it's a way to, self-reflect and
Yeah.
examine and to go inward and to learn how to trust your intuition. It's very valuable, and it teaches you a lot of life skills. And it's healing to get that out, because I often think, like, if we have emotions that we don't express, that get suppressed,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that will atrophy into sickness when
Mm.
we suppress our emotions. So creativity is a modality to excavate what's inside of us and get it out.
Mm.
So it's so great, even if no one sees it, there's value in doing it,
Yeah.
and there's even more value in sharing it, just to get it out and be received. And it's not about being published, it's not about being famous.
Yeah.
There's value in the intrinsic act of creativity and
Mhm.
expressing that creativity.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think I love the work of Gabor Mate, and he says that if trauma is when it's difficult to be ourselves, then healing is about returning to ourselves. And I know that the byproduct of a lot of what you say is just it's simply a guide back to self. It's a guide back to yourself. And I don't know whether you share my view, but you mentioned capitalism, and I just think the world is built to attack our lack. In some way, we feel like we need to have more and do more in order to be more, and it's attacking our souls. And I really enjoy your page because you do something very, very gifted, which is about what I believe is to find the words that match our feelings and our heart. And I think that's a real gift, is something I've had to try and develop, because I talk about heart-centered leadership. The world's intellect drunk, the world's mindset crazy, and trying to find the right words so that the world can understand some of these approaches. Hats off to you, my friend. How have you found that creative process for yourself personally?
Yeah, so it's been a journey. I think my the last 10 years of my life have been a journey, so like what you just said, from the head to the heart,
Yeah,
from the mindset to the heart set.
yeah,
Because if I look back in some of my earlier work, it's very much intellectual. It's like,
hmm
I'm trying to reach a conclusion with the mind, and
hmm
the mind is, I think, by nature a limited tool. It's a very amazing tool,
hmm hmm
but it's not, if you're only relying on the mind as your
yeah,
intellectual navigation
yeah,
to experience the world, you're going to be limited. And then what happens is we end up creating an intellectual abstraction of the world. And
mm,
that's when everything just exists as theoretical numbers. And that's when, like, Wall Street is using this theoretical abstraction of
yeah,
wealth to move money around and not provide any value,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And it's just a completely disembodied from the heart. So the mind is an amazing tool, but if it's not married to the wisdom of the heart, it's going to ultimately lead you astray, no matter how smart it is.
Mm.
Sometimes I listen to like philosophers or speakers,
Yeah.
and they're so smart. And I'm like, wow, I've never heard such a smart articulation of something that's so wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
not grounded in like an
Yeah.
understanding, like a heart-centric
Yeah.
understanding, which will really grounds it and gives it a deeper wisdom. So I've had my own journey personally to reconnect with that heart, whether that's through various practices, plant medicine,
Yep.
um, yoga, meditation, different spiritual lineages that I've not only
Yep.
studied but practiced, which have given me a deeper connection to my heart, and reconnecting with that dormant feminine energy that I think we all need to wake up in ourselves and in the world to restore that balance, right? So now my creative process is very much starting with the heart. I think that emotions are upstream of thoughts, by which I mean like we can sense something with our feelings
Yeah.
before we can intellectualize it. So we think if we have ideas, right? Oh, I had an idea. I tend to think that ideas are the mind starting to articulate a bodily sensation that's already there. And then the mind is the next step. It
Yeah.
starts as a bodily sensation because that's where there's a certain intelligence that the body has, that the heart has, that emotions have, to tune into the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it starts as a feeling, and then the mind picks it up on it, and it becomes an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get people get attached to the idea, but it began as a feeling.
Yeah.
So now I really try to start on in the feeling space, which just means like tuning into my body and asking myself what I'm feeling. What am I experiencing in this moment? What is the universe trying to show me? And I really believe we're all connected, and we're all connected from that energetic emotional place. The mind doesn't connect us. I think it's a bodily sensation that connects us. So when you tune into that feeling, that's when I end up creating things that have the most universal resonance.
I love that.
Because I'm not, if I'm feeling something
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form, other people are feeling that also. And I'm just articulating it my way, but they can relate to it because it's coming from a shared experience.
I love that. And, you're speaking to an audience here that have listened to the likes of Deborah Rosman for the Heart Math Institute, have listened to Bruce Lipton. So we're with you on the understanding that everything is energy and we're all connected to the quantum field. And, and I guess that's kind of where you talk about marrying a Western world with an Eastern culture and finding that kind of intersection. And I guess that's where mindfulness will come in, and some of those mindfulness practices for you to create that heart mind coherence. What are some of the things that that you might do to get yourself in the state, in the flow?
Well, mindfulness has been a big part of my journey. I meditate every single morning.
Yep.
Before I start writing.
Yep.
And it's so important just to clear your mind.
Yep.
I think that um for me, the creative process is very much like a form of meditation, because what I'm trying to do is tune into the empty space between my thoughts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because your it's kind of like I don't know, it's like a computer where your thoughts are like your local hard drive, and like you have access to certain files. But I think when you can tune into that empty space between the thoughts, you're breaking through and connecting with the cloud,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And there's infinite storage on the cloud. And that's when you can get information beyond what you have on your local hard drive. So you have to be able to like just open that space to
yeah,
connect beyond.
be accepting and receive. Do you know what? Like 2019, up to that point, I was a man of science. I didn't want anything to do with God or higher power, higher being. Probably had some father issues with, with the father, because of the own kind of letdowns I'd had in my own life. So like that kind of surrender to spirituality was not on the cards for me until 2019. Kicked my ass, tore down everything that was, not serving me well, how my health, my relationships, my work life. And I came out of 2019 a very, very different man. I had surrendered to a higher power, not willingly, but trusting. I'd had a few messages sent my way, a few synchronicities that I just couldn't quite explain. And then I had a healing experience where my whole body caught fire, and I was like, right, okay, fine. I'll give this surrender thing a go. It's my least favorite topic. It's my least favorite subject. But how do you relate to kind of deepening and growing in and I guess one's personal evolution?
Yes. Well, I had a hard 2019 also.
Cheers
And
to that.
yeah. What's funny about that is I feel like I had to, a lot of my ambitions and things like that died in 2019, and a lot of, the professional goals I had for myself in one way or another, right? In advertising primarily. And then, well, so I had a kind of a whole kind of dark night of the soul and rose out of that. And then it was soon after that the pandemic began. And then everyone went into a dark night of the soul. But like I had just gone through one.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was better equipped to prepare because I had already purged a lot of the illusions that I was holding. And that's happened to me a few times in my life where something will happen and you're forced to let go of the illusions that you're holding, whatever they are. And it's baptism by fire. And it's never comfortable. But every time that happens, you rise from the ashes with more clarity and purpose. So it's so important, I think, to be in a constant state of regeneration. Even so you don't have to go through those dark nights of the soul to let go of your illusions, because you're not holding any illusions tightly. So I think it's so important to let your own self-identity just to shed it like a snake skin every few years, every few months, not to hold any persona of yourself too tightly. And now the world continues to kind of spiral into chaos. And in my perception, the people who are having the best time during this are the people that have already gone through these deep levels of transformation and healing. Right. So we're more equipped to deal with these changes ahead. So I just think it's it's important to give yourself permission to become somebody new.
I love that. I love the image in your recent book as well, with the stick character just pulling this face, like trusting the divine whilst the world descends into more spiritual spiral of chaos. It's very I just love the humor and the wit. And I guess, how did you learn to laugh, in ironic amusement during your own existential crisis?
I mean,
which is the title of James's most recent book, by the way. I'll add the link to it in the show notes.
Yeah. I think it's just the world. We've been pushed into a place of absurdity, I feel. And I think it'll drive us crazy unless we can laugh at it. And for me, the laughter is not just laughter. The laughter is it's an effect of surrender. Like when you have no choice but to surrender, and then you just you're just laughing at the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a cynical laughter. It's not a laughter of trying to pretend everything's okay.
Yeah.
It's the laughter of surrender.
Yeah.
And that's when you laugh. That's why I say how to
Yeah.
laugh in ironic amusement during your
Yeah.
existential crisis.
Okay, universe, that's what you've got for me today. What's the lesson
Exactly.
you're trying to teach me today?
Exactly. And that's such not an easy place to get to.
Yeah.
But I just think it's necessary. I think we need to I think the whole world needs to surrender.
Yeah.
To you need to surrender the small known in exchange for the big unknown. Right. And I think this is the precipice of a huge global transformation. And it's not something that we can intellectualize fully yet. Right. It's something that it's happening to us very rapidly. And surrendering to that does not mean surrendering to all of the there's light and dark in the world right now, right? And just because some people might hear surrender and be like, oh, you mean we shouldn't surrender to the dark nefarious forces that would try to enslave humanity, for example, right? Like that's not what I mean. But it's surrendering to there being a higher plan and trusting that plan, and to continue to hold the vibration of love.
Yes.
Right. Because I think that how we show up in the world at this time is important. And showing up in a state of fear and anger and outrage is only going to perpetuate that fear and anger and outrage.
Yep.
So even if things are not great, I think it's still important to hold that vibration and to set an example that others can follow, so we can all hold that frequency together. And I think that there is literal power in that frequency that we hold as individuals, and especially that we can hold as a collective.
Yeah, I agree. And a part of what I'm thinking and reflecting on as you speak is just whose will be done. And I know that a lot of the pain that I caused myself in 2019 was because it was my will. It was my will that wasn't supposed to be done, and it caused pain and suffering, which is really interesting, isn't it? So I guess that context of surrender for me is, okay, it's not my will be done, but I will be a willing servant to go where you send me, and I will serve the one in front who you send me. Send people my way who need my heart, my gift, or my skill, my talent, whatever you've given me, and I'll use that to the best effect, to the betterment of as many human beings as I possibly can.
You're right. And it's funny because we don't always know what's best for ourselves.
Right.
We think we do, right? Because that's only based on what we've experienced before.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes things have to happen that we don't want so we can get to a place that we do want. So it's important not to take your own ego and thoughts too seriously and be like, this is what I wanted, because again, that's just another attachment and illusion that you're holding on to. And where you're going might be 10 times better than where you wanted to go. Right. So it's just so important to trust the unfolding of experience, and to just remain in your own highest alignment as you go forward, and trust the outcome.
And I think learning to laugh at yourself is about, when you talk about vibrations and frequencies, I think laughter is a gateway to joy, right? It's about finding joy in the small moments.
Yeah. And it's funny because I get a handful. I don't get a lot of negative comments on Instagram, because I'm very careful with my wording, just to I want the optimal amount of impact. Right. So I try not to trigger people too badly, but sometimes I'll play around a little bit. And but it's funny because I'll often do a humorous Instagram meme, and my handle is words are vibrations.
Yeah.
So sometimes people are like, what kind of vibrations are these? Like these are these are not high vibrations. But like I always comment, I'm like, no, actually laughter is a high vibration.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you're right. I'm like using words, and maybe I don't, maybe I'm just like expressing frustration over the craziness of the world or something. So I might be focusing on something that could be perceived as negative, but in doing so in a humorous way, you're transmuting that negativity into something that's, it's kind of like a pressure valve where you're letting out some of the pressure, and humor and comedy lets out some of that pressure, so it doesn't build up.
I agree. And you talked about that coherence with those around us as well, connecting on an emotional level. And I was fortunate enough to see Russell Brand here in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and who thought he would become a voice of reason during a pandemic, right? But I love listening to him, and he said something at his show. He says that, he uses humor to find a uniting experience, because the greatest principle is unity, right? Once we can all forget the way that we look, the way that we speak, the way that we sound, and we can all find humor in this universal joke, it's like a Trojan horse. And I think the Trojan horse goes in with the humor, and then the serious message drops out of love, peace, harmony, unity.
Yeah, no, for sure. Communication is really interesting, and the medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan said. And what I mean by that is I can communicate things in a meme that would be really hard to communicate in a lecture or an essay. And the same with a joke, because humor, like a meme or a joke, they have a way of like bypassing the intellect and the critic, and they kind of connect with you in a visceral way right to the heart. So like you could get on a soapbox and give a lecture or write a detailed essay on something, and some people might, if the people that already agree are going to agree, and the people that don't agree are going to find some way to pick it apart. But I just find with a joke, it's like a Trojan horse. Exactly. You're sneaking something in where they don't have the defense, because the inner critic isn't there to like pick apart the joke just yet. Right. So you can slip it through, and then it unpacks, and then you plant a seed at least. So I definitely have found that with memes. It's definitely a way you can bypass people's like judgments and their predispositions, and communicate something in an instant sense that has a higher likelihood of making a connection.
Yeah, I love that. You said planting a seed. I'm going to kind of dovetail from that. One of the things I liked on your page was we are the future ancestors. It's just in big bold letters. We are the future ancestors, and I guess I love that, because that's a call to action to be good ancestors right here, right now, isn't it? Is to get us to think consciously about every interaction that we have, and does it leave those around us, the planet, better? Does it leave those within our care better? Those within our families? I guess, what does it mean for you to be a good ancestor?
Yeah, well, I wrote that because in the quote spiritual community, there's a lot of talk about ancestors, and like people have ancestors as their spirit guides, and they're trying to like I don't know, summon the ancestors or listen to the wisdom of the ancestors, or something like that. I don't know, which is fine. That sounds like a great practice. But when you look at time, zoomed far, 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 far out, we are every bit as much of an ancestor as they are. Right, because time is eternal. So we're all equally in the position of ancestors, and that means being equal in a position of leadership and responsibility. Right. So one of my favorite poets, Walt Whitman, talks about how there is an equal amount of heaven and hell in every single moment. Right. So the moment we're living in is every bit as holy as any other moment of eternity. in this dimension or another, right? So if you want to call on your ancestors for guidance, great, but make sure you're also calling on yourself and understanding, and also the future generations to understand what's going to be needed of you and behaving accordingly, right? So treating this moment as, like I said, as being as holy as any other moment in the history of the universe, right? And appreciating it for what it is, and understanding our own role in the development of consciousness and evolution moving forward.
Yeah, powerful, isn't it? What's your take on heaven on earth?
Well,
just a small question.
Yeah, I mean, heaven on earth it's a state of mind, first of all. I mean, I don't think that I think, there are a couple things that come to mind. First of all, I think that we live in a world of duality.
Yeah.
So I think that where there is light, there is darkness. And I think that is an inescapable part of 3D reality, however you want to slice it. Some things are good, some things are bad. Bad experiences help to teach us lessons so we can experience, the good times. So it's an equal balance, and and we learn through the contrast of good and bad, right? So I don't, in one sense, I don't think heaven on earth is something completely to strive for. But on the other hand, I think that we could experience a simulation of heaven on earth if we had, how do I put this, leadership and systems which were truly working on the behalf of humanity.
Yes, agreed.
Right? So we can have a fair and balanced world where everyone has opportunity and everyone is treated equally, and everyone is happy and in love, and the earth can support us in a way that doesn't require war. And if we weren't being gaslit into blaming each other for all of the problems that are being rigged against us by a corrupt system. So it's not exactly heaven on earth, but we can have pretty close to that if we only had systems and rulers that were looking out for our best interests, which I don't think that we're there right now.
Yeah. And if we had all day, and well, maybe this is a different labeled show, then maybe we'd go down the rabbit hole of, I think those powers that be know that. And I think that they exploit those circumstances to keep a certain mass population under obedience and control. But that might lower the frequency of this conversation. So, and I think it comes back to what you said earlier, is about that vibrational state of love, and that when we feel that within ourselves, we have healthy bodies, healthy minds, healthy kind of spirit in terms of the way that we communicate, and when we our leadership. And I think I think I saw this on your pages about, if you want to be more rich, then learn how to desire less. Learn how to desire less. And I don't think many people are voting for that right now, are they? Because we've built systems around the pursuit of stuff, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of the American dream. And it's going to reveal, I love the work that Sadhguru says, well, the pursuit of something reveals its absence.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really, we have been incentivized to, chase carrots. And, I think that, there are much better things than the carrots we're chasing. And we're missing out on life because we are so caught up in
Yeah,
you
but
know,
James, all these adverts tell me that I need carrots, and I need the biggest carrots, and I need the most orange carrots.
right. And yeah, and brainwashing and hypnotism aren't real at all, right?
Right, right, right. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I'd love to know what you mean by the term homesick alien.
Yeah, so I wrote that began I wrote a tweet that said the homesick alien in me recognizes the homesick alien in you.
Mm,
And it's a play off, namaste, which is something similar, but I just wrote that without thinking much about it, and it ended up resonating. And
mm,
it's partially in jest because I do think that, you know Earth is our home, Earth is our mother. We are all literally born from the earth.
yes.
The earth is what sustains us, the earth nurtures us. The sunlight that reaches the earth is what gives us life, and
Mm,
the water that falls to the earth is what gives us life. So I definitely do believe in honoring the planet,
mhm.
and this is the home of our physical bodies, and
Yeah.
it should be honored as such. But at the same time, it's a little bit of a joke because it's like sometimes the soul feels like it's not from here,
Mm,
right? Like, who, I don't know, where we're from. I'm sure
yeah,
there are.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure there are plenty of dimensions
yeah,
out there
yeah,
that we pop in and out of, right? So this is just one of them,
yeah.
but it was just a reaction to feeling like we're not, even though this is our home, it feels like our spirit is not native to earth. And
Mm,
um I think more and more people are feeling that way,
yeah,
and it's kind of like this yearning for heaven, or
yeah,
yearning
yeah,
for a better dimension where we don't have to play all these crazy games and
yeah,
like work our ass off just to barely afford to be alive.
yeah,
It just
yeah.
feels like, what is this crazy mess we've gotten ourselves
Mm,
into? um so we're all just, aliens, feeling homesick for our planets, in some way, shape, or form.
I love that. What comes to mind is I interviewed a wonderful man called David Ditchfield, and I highly recommend considering him for your podcast. He had a near death experience where in the UK he went under a train, and he had a near death experience on the operating table. And the thing that he described, he talked about, being prepared by his guides on this slab, and then looking over his shoulder to a galaxy of stars, and then he just saw it, and he just intuitively knew that this big ball of light was where he came from and where he was going back. And like, just from that one conversation, I'm just like, and then I watched Disney Soul the same week, and it was the same image about this soul going back to this light in the center of the universe. It's
Sure.
home, where we've come from. And that's kind of my belief. That's kind of my interpretation of what you're saying, is that I'm a homesick alien because my spiritual home is at one with this center of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. I believe in, a certain unity consciousness
Yeah.
that we're all part of. And in this current experience on earth, we forget that we're part of that because we have this human ego.
Yes.
And on top of the human ego, we've got these systems in place, like the media and all the advertising and all the career responsibilities, and it just pulls us further and further away from unity conscious
Yeah.
into this reactionary, fear-based ego
Division.
consciousness.
You're a white male from America with a beard.
Right. So I think it's important to keep in mind that this is not our home. Like, we will return to unity consciousness at some point.
Mm,
But not only that, and I've heard other people say this, maybe that's why we're here, because yes, it is beautiful and blissful to be one with everything and to be
yeah.
part of this, harmonious unity consciousness where everything is just kind of perfectly balanced, and we don't have bodies and everything is just kind of like light and vibration. That's amazing. But there's no drama to it. There's no excitement to it. So like if you watch a movie, you want some drama and excitement. It's like a break from your boring day. Maybe you want to turn on a movie and get some, watch a tragedy or watch something that's crazy with a lot of action. And in while you're watching that, you might feel suspense, you might feel some fear, you might feel some excitement, and you're getting an experience from watching that movie. So I
All of the
often
spectrum.
think our souls are here for the experience,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
we have literally eternity to be part of unity consciousness, and
Powerful.
we only have 100 years to jump into these avatars and experience the full spectrum of emotions that happen on earth. So this is actually a privileged place to be, and we should take our jobs here seriously, and we should strive to make this a better place for everyone. But at the same time, our lives are short, our lives are temporary. And when we take it too seriously and get caught up in the drama too much and forget who we really are, I think that's when we get into we lose the script, and that's when we have depression, and we're easily outraged, and we're just living in a state of anxiety because we can't just let go a little bit of the illusion and accept that we are here to experience life as it is.
Whilst being a full expression of ourselves, right?
Exactly.
Love that. My friend, like I could talk to you all day, but I want to be super respectful of your time. What does the phrase always better than yesterday mean to you?
Always better than yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, so what comes to mind is linear progress. And progress is not always linear. So if we push ourselves to be always better than yesterday, that can be a bit of a challenge because we have ups and downs, right? And sometimes downs are necessary for an even higher up. So always better than yesterday would mean even giving yourself patience for where you are on your journey. And if you're having a hard week, or if you're struggling with something, like, it might not look like you're better than yesterday, but sometimes that's the journey. Sometimes the journey takes you places that are unexpected. So you can take 3 steps forward to take 10, or 3 steps backwards to take 10 steps forward. So everyone's got a different growth journey and healing journey. And have patience for yourself wherever you are on that journey.
I love that. I've done 180 of these episodes, and I'm really starting to get a grip around how people are going to respond to that question because, I've been using that mantra for about 5 years now. And I can just tell that those that are mindset driven, very strategic, the answer is very much about learning and progress and just one more rep and all that. Whereas I'm starting to really get a theme from those that are more heart based, more conscious. It's like, why do we need to be better? There is no need. There is no need to be better than yesterday.
Right. Well, I my fiance taught me this a lot too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was I was I was making some merch. I was putting out a merch collection, and one of the shirts said, it was, the merch collection was called Sunflower Club, and one of the shirts said "Always in Bloom." And my fiance was like, she's like, that's not natural. She's like, nothing is always in bloom.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like, always in bloom is the capitalistic mindset of
Sure.
always more, 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 more.
Yeah.
Like, nature does not work that way. Nature needs periods of decay and rest in order for rebirth. So it's about that cyclical nature of the world, not this kind of always one direction. So it's more that feminine wisdom that needs to be kind of re-injected into our mindsets to make us
Great
more
challenge.
connected to
Great
the heart set.
challenge. Yeah, my my,
Yeah.
my wife's like, the kids are still alive. I fed them. Like, why do I need to be better as well? I'm like, so the just for clarity's sake, the conclusion I've come to is that being better than yesterday is always the result of love. Whenever we can bring love, whenever we can bring love to a situation, love leaves us better in some way. Whether we be lighter, more connected, more free, more accepting, more tolerant. That's my perspective. So, heart-centered first, leadership that looks and sounds and feels like empathy and compassion and service, willingness to sacrifice. And I truly believe that type of leadership leaves people around them better. But that's my context.
I love it.
My friend, thank you so much for your heart, your mind, your wisdom. I'd be honored if you'd leave us with a final thought from your good self.
Final thought. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm just going to see what the final thought is coming through right now. Just giving yourself space to be quiet, just I'm going to do a video on Instagram where I just sit in silence, because like people are hearing everything, people, there's no shortage of opinions out there. So even including our own, right? So just giving yourself space to be silent and be quiet and listen, and that's so important.
It's a discipline, right? I know that there are many people in my life that when they hear those words, it's going to be like, because they're just so action oriented. I think we're such an action oriented culture, and it's a great call to action. My friend, I'll share all your good links in the show notes. And one more time, thank you so much for your presence. Really appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks, Ryan. A lot of fun.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below, some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe. Hit the bell and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organization, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honor and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.